Welcome
Welcome.
to the Grow People podcast. That would be Pastor Jason right there. I'm David Stein, campus pastor at our Canton location. The purpose of the Grow People podcast is to help grow people.
I don't know why I feel the need, like even on the welcome, to make a different kind of
sound
than what my voice normally makes.
I think it's fine. And
I think it's hilarious.
It differentiates from the other things that we want to talk about in our regular voices.
Yeah.
That has more impact.
But I think everything I think is funny is funny.
Yeah. No, you're funny.
Yeah. Well, other people might be listening to this and say, why does he make that weird welcome noise?
I think if they're listening for the first time, they might wonder. But afterward, after
they know who I am, they know it's weird.
After they're binge listening, we met a young couple a few Thursday nights ago, and they just started coming to the church, and then they began to binge listen.
Yeah.
So they were like episode 30 into however.
Which always, I got to be honest, always makes me a little nervous. Because I know when I have listened to preachers or watched, like I've done this, like watching a TV series or something.
Yeah.
Like we'll watch it for days.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then my whole thought process and worldview is shaped by that medium.
Mm-hmm.
So it makes me a little nervous when people say that. I'm like, oh gosh, they're like acting and thinking like us now. This is scary. It makes me like second guess everything to think, oh, I hope that's a good thing. I hope if you're talking or thinking like us, that's good.
That's what happened to us 9 years ago. We came here one time and knew we were home, and then we just started binge watching all the messages and went back to Shadows.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the one that was like, whoa, okay, there's something going on here. Turns out there was. there was something
in a
going
good
on.
way, not something going on in a bad way.
Well, all that to say, welcome to the Grow People podcast. Two words struck me during the message this past weekend, and I want to unpack these words.
Oh gosh,
I haven't gone deep into these words. I don't know the Greek or the Hebrew, but the words are "watch this."
not something theologically profound.
Nope. Watch this.
Watch this.
Watch this.
But I could do that in a voice too.
You could.
Yeah.
You could watch this. I like it. Now, are you finding yourself not liking it because you say it too often?
Well, here's the context for that broader story, or the broader context for that story, I should say. I do watch this. Like I watch myself back.
Sure, it's important.
And a lot of times I'll watch it. Like I preach Thursday night, and then I'm off Friday, Saturday, so I'll watch the 8 a.m. on Sunday morning just to make sure remember everything I said.
Because the 8 a.m. is the Thursday night.
Yes, it's a replay from Thursday night. It's not live. Like 9:30 and 11:30. So that normally happens. Well, the week prior, my son was in the message, and I said something. I don't think it was watch this, but I said, I want to show you these things, or I said something to that effect. And then he said, I only said one thing. I didn't keep going.
Okay.
Because I guess I lost my train of thought.
I'm going to show you these things, but you just
I emphasized one.
You only showed him one thing. Okay.
And so he was,
and maybe that was enough.
Maybe it was. It very well could have been, I just said these things, or I legit was going to say multiple things and then just forgot. That happens quite often. So that was in my head of like, oh, I didn't even realize I said that. And then the next week I preached Thursday night like normal. And then I was watching myself at 8 a.m. on Sunday morning with my son having told me that. So I was kind of watching myself more critically.
Mm-hmm.
And as I was watching myself, I noticed I said, watch this a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And it's kind of my way of, I just get really excited about something, and then I want to point it out, and then I want people to see it. So I'll say, watch this, like I just get really excited. But I remembered back when I was a student pastor and, speaking to middle school and high school students on the regular, I would always say, listen. But I was purposely trying to get their attention again, because, they may or may not be listening. And I would watch myself back. I'm like, man, I need to quit saying that. So again, I was kind of being more critical of myself. I'm like, I need to quit saying, watch this, even though I'm doing it for emphasis, But it's not like I didn't go into the message thinking, you know what, I need to get people's attention 7 minutes in by saying, watch this. It wasn't a preconceived thing. I just genuinely get excited and I want to grab people's attention and say, watch this.
But you're always doing it when you're trying to put something together.
Yeah, I'm putting something together.
Yeah, you've talked about this. You've talked about this. Now watch this.
Now watch this. Yeah. So I preached Thursday night and I was more cognizant of it. And so on Sunday morning, and then at 9:30 that Sunday morning, which was 2 Sundays ago now, I was purposely trying not to say, watch this, but I would keep doing it. And so I kind of said that. I'm like, I say watch this a lot. Well, then the 11:30, I started trying to stop myself. I'd say, watch this. I was like, oh gosh, quit saying watch this.
But then you would go, but watch this.
But watch this, yeah.
which made it even funnier.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I have a bunch of theories on this. Number one, I don't mind it at all.
Okay, good.
Because I have the attention span of a gnat.
Of course.
So
well, not you. I'm just saying.
Of course you do.
I'm saying most people. Yeah, most people attention spans have been affected.
Yeah. And I'm seeing this message minimum 2 times.
Yeah.
And sometimes 3.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'm watching it Friday from Thursday night. So, I kind of know what's going on, but it's different every time.
It is.
But you're always taking one thought over here and another thought over here. And if you're just listening to this, I have 2 thoughts and they're on opposite sides of me.
Yeah, exactly. 2 hands.
And then you'll go, okay, now watch this.
Yeah.
And that is always the reminder for me to press in, to focus in. I remember, right after I got saved and just couldn't get enough of sermons, had no idea what anybody was talking about.
Yeah.
And, I was living in California. There was a guy on TV in the morning before I went to church named Charles Stanley.
Yeah.
I had no idea that I would be living in Atlanta. And he would always say, listen, look at this, look at this. And I would think to myself, I am listening. He doesn't have to tell me
He doesn't have to tell me.
But then I realized what he was doing. Yeah. So I like to watch this.
There's definitely, like communication was my undergrad degree. And so I've definitely taken classes and, debates and all that kind of stuff. And there are definitely mnemonic devices to do. And alliteration's one. There's all kinds of different things you can do to try to make things more memorable. And so again, when I was a student pastor, I was doing that on purpose. But it's just kind of funny now. I'm not doing it consciously. I am doing it just because I get excited, but I do think probably there's some training or some, like habits that I have that I've picked up. And so I'm just kind of naturally doing that. But after the 11:30, one of our guys whose same name as me, Jason, comes up to me afterwards and he was, saying this. And man, it's not bad when you say, watch this, because it makes me pay attention, because you can kind of get lulled a little bit. Not that it's boring or whatever. You just kind of get in a rhythm. And so that's why you use your hands or you change inflection or speed or pitch or whatever, or volume. So you do all those things as a way to engage. But what he was joking about, because I'll talk about myself sometimes in a message and then I'll say Jason, but then he says, where you really get me is when you say my name, you say Jason. He's like, I know you're talking about yourself, but I'm like, okay, I get it. I get the point, So it can be helpful.
Oh yeah.
But literally when I watched it back that Sunday morning from Thursday night, I must have said, watch this like 30 or 40 times. and that was just a message that night that I got really excited about, which again, if I'm not getting excited about messages, then I should stop preaching.
Yeah.
So I am conscious of it now, but even this last weekend, I would still say it.
Yeah.
Because again, I do think it's helpful and I do think it's just part of my personality, which is good. That's not a bad thing. Like messages. And in fact, I was talking to my father-in-law about this because he across the street from our Canton campus is an assisted living place, and it's shown there live at 9:30. And so we have residents there, 6 to 10 residents that will watch it live every Sunday. Hey,
just barging in.
Barging into the podcast.
What are you doing?
We are.
What are y'all doing?
We're actually talking about watch this. Does he say that at home?
In the messages?
No, I don't think you say that at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's not coming up with like a couple of different thoughts. Like, okay, watch this.
No, he just comes up with lots of thoughts and doesn't ever stop talking.
Wow.
It's the truth.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Yeah.
I get it. I mean, not from you, but me at home.
David's like, I too always have to listen to him talk, and he never stops talking.
That's not what I meant.
My chair is a little short.
You can raise it up. What do you?
Oh, this is
What am I doing in
Lindsay,
here?
by the way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is Lindsay
Hey,
Curtis, my
everybody.
wife.
No, we were talking about watch this, and
But not watch me.
Did you really do it like 40 or 50 times?
Watch me, nay-nay.
in the sermon?
On that Thursday night, I did. Yeah. Yeah.
We have a new game. We're taking communion every time.
Well, yeah, we could.
Every time,
Oh, that's a good idea.
every time he says, "Watch this," take some communion juice.
I love it. You know, one time at Rev Students, some kids or students, they thought it would be fun to drink to drink a lot of the communion and eat the wafers.
Yeah, we were a little short on communion cups.
They had like 40 of them.
Did they think they were wine? Is that?
I don't know. I don't
Yeah.
think so.
No, I'm glad you're here because
I'm glad I'm here
because
too.
not since
What do you hear?
not since
We have something to talk about.
yes, not since the California Raisins advertising campaign of the mid '80s
Mm-hmm.
and the Fruit of the Loom campaign of the '70s,
Oh,
if you remember.
we're going there.
with the fruit guys
Yeah.
dressed as a particular fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Has there been this much chatter about grapes? you started so, and it's always like the random thing that we talk about when we're speaking that that people
he
latch
has started
onto.
something.
Yeah, not the theology that you had to go watch this about. But but so many people coming up after the gatherings talking about grapes. So there's a thing in your house.
And giving me suggestions on how not to let the grapes rot. So I know all the tips and tricks now.
Well, that's
which
good.
I'm excited
That's
about.
good news because apparently you have a lot of grapes at home.
Yeah, we have an issue. Is it okay that I'm this close to you?
Yeah, because we have
Okay.
to speak in the. I mean, we are
Okay,
married.
we are
We have to
married.
speak in the microphone.
Yeah.
Yes, we're going to share a microphone.
So, a little backstory
Okay.
if you haven't heard the message. Pastor Jason was talking about the. Maybe we'll call this episode "The Wrath of Grapes."
Yeah, there you go.
There you go.
Grapes of
Yeah,
little John
Yeah,
Steinbeck
I
reference
like
there,
it. I like it.
1939-ish.
Watch this.
Watch this. I don't even know why you even brought it up in the sermon.
Well, again, going back to my
Why does he bring up many things
Yes.
in the sermon?
yes.
Just easy.
There are many times that I don't look over at you because I just don't want to.
Oh,
Yeah.
she'll talk back now.
Mm-hmm.
So Thursday night again, things happening on Thursday nights. People, in fact, one of our team members said he calls the Thursday night sermon the unabridged version
Oh, that's good.
because they attend Thursday. So Thursday's the first one, and so it's the
Yeah.
first time I'm saying something, and there will be some because I have to talk in order to think.
Yeah. It's
So
like,
there will be something. Sorry.
no, it's like Leno showing up at the Comedy Store at midnight on a Thursday. It's working out material.
Yes. So I am prepared on Thursday. It's not like
he is.
some people call Thursday the run through. It's not the run through.
not the run-through.
It's like sometimes that's the message that's on this week's online.
Yeah,
is
it's
Thursday
the
nights.
actual online messages.
So sometimes
yeah.
Thursday night's my best one.
Yeah.
But it's the first one for sure. So there'll be some things that I say that I didn't prepared about saying. So in this week's message, I was talking about in Ephesians 4:29 the corrupting thought or corrupting
Oh, that's right.
talk.
That's right.
And the word means rotten.
Mm-hmm.
And so as I was talking about fruit or vegetables in your fridge that go rotten.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then in my mind, I thought, well, in my house, what happens a lot is we don't eat the grapes fast enough and they go rotten.
Yep.
They start turning into raisins.
They corrupt.
Yes, they corrupt. So then I started talking about that. Well, then, so I made that as kind of as a reference. And then I was joking about how I don't like to let grapes go to waste. And so I'll try to eat all the ones that I can, even though they're mushy, So I was talking about that. And then on Friday,
Well, on Friday, what were you going to say on Friday?
after the Thursday night gathering, I
Yeah.
came home and told you.
Yeah, that's right. That's
Like,
okay. Yeah.
So I told her, I was like, hey, I just want you to know, like I mentioned this about grapes, but I'm not like talking bad about you.
Yeah, I never thought that you were talking about it.
Yeah.
So I mentioned that to
it's
her.
anti-grape, not anti-Lindsay.
Yes, exactly. Because I've learned, there were some things I say that, I don't mean to sound offensive or whatever, or like I'm throwing somebody under the bus. So I joked about it with her and she's like, oh, that's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you joked about it with me as I was throwing a package of rotting grapes away.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why I said it.
You said it, and I said, well, I'm just giving you more sermon material. And you said, oh, I have plenty.
Yeah.
and you referenced this, but when did grapes get so expensive?
I have no idea.
Grapes and patio furniture.
Yeah.
Right? We should have invested in both of those.
You're exactly right. Mm-hmm.
So then at church on Sunday, again, I referenced it again because it's a personal thing. It's funny. People kind of get what you're talking about. So we talked about it in the messages on Sunday. And then, people were giving you they came up, people would give me suggestions and her suggestions about how to preserve grapes, which is totally fine. Like I'm not dogging anybody, but the funny, my first thought is like, that's what you took away from the message? Like, is the response is how to preserve grapes, which again, thank you for this.
If they were sharing that in a way that builds up.
They were building up the grape community.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Building up the body.
Yep.
But that's not the end of the story.
No, the story gets better.
It does.
We actually have more of the grape saga of 2024.
The grape saga.
So do you want me to start saying it from my perspective?
No, let me start saying it from my perspective, and then you can.
Are you sure? Because I feel like mine. Well, it was in the order. Your perspective happened first, but
I'm going to say what I did first, and then you can say what happened.
You want to work this out in pastoral care?
Well, maybe.
Okay, so
what's the best way to say it?
So Sunday night, I'm doing our online grocery ordering because I don't like going to the grocery store in person. And
I love going to the grocery store.
And so I do my order. I order grapes because we're almost out. And we almost had eaten that entire bag because we've been munching on them hard because we don't want any more sermon illustrations about it.
Right.
So we've been eating them. So we were almost out. So I buy my weekly package of grapes and do my whole order and everything. And then I place the order Sunday night for it to be delivered Monday morning between 8 and 9 a.m. I wake up Monday morning, 8 a.m. The groceries are there. And
that's what I was saying. Let me see.
It was a very comical thing that happened. And now I'm going to let you take it over.
Okay. So that's the backstory. And you can't do anything else with grapes. I mean, unless you're stomping them and you're unless you're Lucy.
Yes.
Well, one thing that you can do with them, and I already do this, is that we will get like the fresh grapes and we'll freeze them, and we will put sugar-free lime Jell-O on them. Do you remember this? Yeah. We haven't done this in a while, but we would do this a lot a couple of years ago.
A summertime treat.
Yeah, and then you freeze them.
Yeah.
You freeze, and then it tastes like almost like a Sour Patch Kid, or like it's really, really, really good. So I already do that on the front end, but people gave me lots of tips on when they start to get a little like mushy to go ahead and freeze them at that point in time.
Okay.
And that's a great tip. Most of ours, though, it's not that they're a little mushy. They have mold on them.
Yes.
So I can't freeze mold, you know? So anyways, I did my order, and then Jason, take it over.
Yeah.
Okay.
So Monday morning, I come downstairs because normally I'm up first and go downstairs.
This is all in the Apostles' Creed, by the way.
It is. Yeah. Okay. This is church history here. So there's a Walmart order, and it's in the our front of our house, and so I'll bring him inside. But Lindsay had already gone down there and brought him inside, but she didn't tell me what was in the order. She didn't tell me, any of that. And I didn't
put anything up.
So, and I had already seen on the credit card charge from Walmart.
Because I am the fraud.
Because she is the fraud.
Yes.
Which I was paying the card. And so I had seen that we had ordered something, there was a Walmart order for $75. And So I come downstairs, and then there's Walmart bags. I'm like, oh, there's the order. Again, didn't think anything about it.
Sure.
Well, I realize, normally I'm like, okay, what needs to be put into the fridge? And so I start going through the bags, and I open up a bag, and there's a bag of grapes.
Well, naturally.
Yes. And so I start like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. I just talked about grapes, and here they are. So then I go through the bags, and there's a second bag of grapes. So not one.
Second bag on the grassy knoll.
Yeah, there's 2 bags of grapes.
And they're very full bags.
Very full bags. And so then I'm like, what the heck? This girl is messing with me now. Like, what is, seriously? Like, this is a joke. When I keep going through, there's a 3rd bag of grapes. So that means there's 3 bags of grapes.
Three bags of grapes.
So we go from normally buying 1
that goes bad,
that half go bad, and now we have 3.
Yeah.
And I wasn't mad. It wasn't that, but I was like, what is Lindsay playing a joke on me? Like this, I mean, because this is funny.
What did the order say?
But
did you go back to the order?
Well, hold on.
Okay.
We'll get to that.
Okay. I'm way ahead. Okay.
But mind you, so I'm going through it, and there's only like 5 bags, and I know what the amount is already. So I'm thinking, the amount was $75.
You got about $70 worth of grapes.
Yeah, I'm like, did she order like $40 of grapes? Like, why did she order so many grapes? And now, like, this is crazy. And I just talked about them. So again, like in my mind, all this is run. And I hear Lindsay upstairs getting ready, and I know she's about to come downstairs. So she comes downstairs, and I go meet her at the stairs, and she turns the corner. I was like, is this a joke? Like, is your Walmart order a joke? Like, you just ordered 3 bags of grapes? Like, what are the chances? Like, this is, I mean, this is hilarious.
It is.
If it's a joke.
It is.
But then I wasn't mad, but I was like, but $75? Like $75 for an order? 3 grapes when 1 bag?
Like a cheaper joke.
Yes. Exactly. Yes.
Could you have done like a $5 joke?
Exactly. So we start. This is why you barged in, huh? So we can explain this. Yeah. So then she was like, oh my gosh, I got to tell you what happened. So then you can take it back over. Yeah.
So Monday morning, I'm laying in bed, and I look at my phone, and I get a notification that there was 1 substitution in our order. So I open it up, and the substitution was...
Because you normally order a bag of red grapes.
I normally order a bag of red grapes, yes. Seedless grapes. The substitution was my 1 bag of red grapes had been substituted for 3 bags of green grapes. No clue why.
Okay.
No clue why.
Well, they were
priced.
Well, there wasn't. So like the red grapes was going to be like $5.98 or something for 1 bag of red grapes. Okay. But I guess Walmart had a sell on grapes. Maybe they knew. Maybe they heard your message, and they were like, let's put a sell on grapes because everybody's going to want them. And I got 3 bags of grapes for like $4.54. So I actually saved us money.
You got a deal.
I got a deal.
Yeah, the grapes are terrible.
They're gonna rot. Oh, sorry, they're gonna rot. But I did get a deal on them.
Yeah.
So anyway, so now we've got 3 bags of grapes in our refrigerator.
We're all going over to the Gertis's for grapes.
He said yesterday when we got here, when we were driving to the office, he said, why didn't we bring some of these grapes to the office?
Yeah.
And I was like, I totally forgot about that. So I'll wash them. We'll freeze some. We'll do all the tips and tricks that people have suggested that we do. And maybe this will be a turning point in our grape saga.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Could you please mention zucchini and bananas? Because these are the things that rot in our house.
Oh, yeah. Oh, bananas for sure always go bad in our house. But
Right before Kenya, I finished a bunch of bananas for the first time, maybe in my life. and I've never felt more like a winner in life than when I had that last banana. Because it wasn't like bad. It wasn't overripe. When I put that in my yogurt parfait, I mean, I sat there and relished it, and I looked at the counter, and there's no rotting bananas there.
I mean, I really kind of feel like this is like a form of sanctification.
Yeah.
Like, can you eat all of the fruit before it rots?
Hell is just going to be, we're surrounded by bags of grapes that are rotting.
Rotten ones. Yep. That is exactly right.
Yep.
So anyways, that is our grape story. We're sticking to it. And it's been fun at our house over the last couple of weeks.
Is there any other vegetable in your house that goes bad?
Carrots.
Do they? I feel like we didn't eat those.
I threw a bag of carrots.
Baby carrots.
No, these were the whole ones. I was going to shred them and like eat this carrot salad. And I never did that.
That never happens. No.
I never did that.
Yeah, and the funniest thing about it, again, was all of this was completely unplanned and unscripted. Like, I didn't know going into Thursday night's message that I was even going to talk about grapes. And then I did. And then the whole order, like, what are the chances of Walmart, like, switching up the order and the Sunday morning, like, it was not just they switched it, but it was Sunday night, Monday morning, I walked down. So, yeah, it was just the greatest, it was just the funniest thing. But all that still, like, so she tells me why it's got substituted. I was like, okay, but still, it's $75. Like,
we didn't go back to that.
What did you order? And that's when you said you had ordered,
I ordered a bathing suit and 2 shirts that were being shipped to me. So they just weren't there yet.
Yes.
Because I do think we need to just touch on this a little bit because you talked about it in your message about how I am the fraud. For anybody that like didn't hear that story, that was on a Mother's Day. So I think it was 2 years ago. I think because Mother's Day is coming up in May. So I think it was 2 years ago. And we were talking about something on stage and you talked about how you check the credit card statements every single morning. And he does religiously check those credit card statements. Can't get anything past him. And so, which is great. But so he was asking me something about a charge and
because it was like an international charge.
Maybe, but I mean, like to the point to where one time it was like, hey, there's a charge for Home Depot for $2.75. And I'm like, yeah, I bought a dying plant that I'm going to bring back to life.
Yeah, but in his defense,
he's like,
he's checking to make sure nobody's phishing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the small things in your credit card, that's people phishing.
Yeah.
David, you're not supposed to help him out. No, but because he normally is the one that goes to Home Depot. So he's
lifting
like,
up Moses' arms.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So he's like, why did you go to Home Depot? And so anyways, he said from stage, like, I'm just checking to make sure that there's no fraud. And I said, I am the fraud. It's me. It's me that's making the charges.
Yes.
So that's what you were referring to, like how you like the green.
Yes.
And then the blue, and you're trying to get me to not spend as much. And it's just really hard.
Well, yeah, and it's not that you just, I mean, obviously.
Oh, yeah.
You do, but like beauty care products and for you and Natalie, like clearly you're going to spend more than me on those things, which is fine. I'm not being critical of that. But sometimes I don't know, it might be a charge to somewhere that I don't recognize. Or again, there might be a merchant that her or even Jackson had bought something and it's an international transaction. They didn't know it was international, but I'll get that notification. So I'm always asking. So if I know what it is, then I won't ask. But like the Home Depot one, I knew I didn't go to Home Depot.
Yeah.
She doesn't normally go to Home Depot. So I'm like, oh, is that fraud? You know?
Yep.
So yeah, when I joked about that, that's why I said making sure you're not the fraud. Because again, I knew what the Walmart, this is what makes to me this story so funny. It's this series of events with which things happen. Like I said it on Thursday night, said it again on Sunday. Well, I said it Thursday, told you about it, said it again on Sunday to make sure it was good to say. Then you're having conversations about grapes. Then you order grapes. Then they get substituted. I don't know about it. I see the charge, so it was this whole order of events.
And also, guess what? On Friday, I painted my fingernails grape lollipop. I just realized that. The purple on my nails right now is called grape lollipop. I can't get away from it.
Yeah.
So, anyways, that's all I wanted to barge in and say.
This is good. I'm sure that married folk are listening to this going, "Yep."
Yeah.
Because I'm sitting here going, "Yep, yep." We're actually claiming our Amazon Prime driver as a dependent on this year's taxes.
I really do like our Amazon delivery people.
Amazon and Walmart. Yeah.
Amazon, Walmart.
Now, the other thing you said, which was a little controversial, was your hatred for raisins.
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't know anybody hated raisins.
I don't hate them. He hates them. I love an oatmeal raisin cookie so much. Oh, and then the other thing that brought a little bit of controversy was the stickers on the back of cars.
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I did have a couple of people text me the back of their car.
Oh, their stickers?
To let me know how many stickers they have on the back, and then said, can we still be friends?
Well, you said 3 or more. 3 or more is bad.
Did I?
Yeah.
These were a lot more than 3, but I think we can still be the message of the stickers were all consistent. So I think that we can definitely.
Well, and again, I was joking about that because that happened on Thursday.
Yeah.
Like when I said I was driving in and I saw that car with the church sticker and then the curse word. But it does make me laugh. I think it does say a lot about people. Like you learn a lot about people by the stickers they put on the cars. And that's really my aversion to it is I don't want people to know that much about me.
Yes.
So yes, to all of you out there who have a lot of stickers on your car, it's totally fine.
We love you.
Yeah. Not saying we can't be friends. It's just funny to me the things people will put on.
Yeah. I mean, I used to have the Clemson sticker, and then a sticker from where I used to work, and then everybody would know, oh, that's probably David Stein. So, so I definitely had to take off the other sticker.
Yeah.
So I think, go ahead.
Now it's just the R and the Clemson. But when I see somebody who has multiple stickers, and the stickers are maybe something I wouldn't believe in, then I'm starting to wonder, assume the best. They bought the car. It had the stickers on it.
Well, that's kind of what I mean. It's like sports teams, clearly they have logos, or even because there's a lot of hunting stickers, Browning or Summit tree stands or even Yetis, they're definitely, companies have brands.
I don't know if I would like tree stands so much that I would put a sticker on my car.
And that's kind of my point, but I understand when people have their teams on there or their church. But what makes me laugh?
You're talking about the 20 stickers that have a bunch of different phrases on them.
Yeah, phrases and messages that aren't of companies or brands that you would normally put on your car, And some of them, literally, we were driving down the road the other day, and there was on the back of someone's car, it said, "Less friends, more money." Really big on the back. Remember, we were we were going to a Broadway play, and it said that really big, and I thought, okay, why are you saying that message? You're all about money and not about people. What does that say about you that you felt the need to put that sticker on your car?
What church sticker did they have?
I'm not going to say. Yeah. I've stepped in enough controversies already.
Yeah.
So it is stickers like that that kind of are more telling to people that make me think, why'd you put that on there?
Yeah.
I like raisins.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Just putting it out there for the oatmeal raisin cookies.
And I like
craisins.
Craisins
are great. Craisins are good.
Here's my thing with raisins. Again, I'm not necessarily outright.
You are outright.
No, what I'm saying is I'm not saying they're ungodly.
Are raisins to you like cilantro is to me?
Yes. That is a great point. Let me have this mic. When we were at Chad and Christy's house the other night for our young adult small group, Christy made some bread.
Yeah.
And that had raisins in it. And every time I looked over there, the raisins were out of the bread. You were picking. So I was like, raisins keep appearing on my plate. And so I kept eating them, but you picked them out. So you don't like them cooked into anything. You don't like to just eat some raisins. If you have a trail mix with raisins, peanuts, and chocolate, you're going to go for the chocolate. The peanuts, the raisins are going to be left over.
Yes, but what I was going to say before you interrupted me was that, no, it's not, to me, it's not like cilantro. In that you just don't like cilantro.
Hate it.
Yes.
Hate it's from the devil.
I wouldn't say I hate raisins. I've eaten raisins by themselves, and it's not, to me, it's more of a consistency thing. I just don't, it's not my favorite. the thing to me that bugs me about raisins is why people put them in the things that they do.
Oh, they hide them in places.
And when they do that, as a kid, they always were. It was like a raisin. They were trying to be a chocolate chip.
Ooh,
and that's what bothered me.
That's a very good point, because the raisinette,
yes,
is a mockery, a Travis Sham mockery of the M&M.
Yes. And so when it's weird in a cookie and it's a raisin, and I thought it was a chocolate chip, and I get very disappointed. And like to that, in the bread was great. But my thought is, it doesn't need a raisin. So why'd you put it in there?
Yeah.
You know,
because Christy likes raisins,
which is great. Like, no offense to Christy. But so that's my point. It's like, it's not that I just hate, I prefer grapes in their original form, not in their dried form into raisins. But it's not that I just hate raisins. I don't like them in other things.
Okay.
When they shouldn't be, like, to me, there is zero reason for a raisin to be in a cookie.
Yeah.
When you could have chosen chocolate chips.
You could have.
Even though now there is a chocolate shortage.
What?
Yeah. You're not aware of this?
No.
Cocoa, or however you say that chocolate comes from, it is like at 1,000% inflation right
Didn't know that.
Oh, yeah. It's a worldwide crisis.
Good thing I like raisins.
I don't know. Yeah, see? So that's what I mean. Like, unless there was a run on chocolate chips and you could have chosen that, why would you pick raisins?
And that's a good point. There is an oatmeal raisin cookie with chocolate chips. That's actually pretty good.
No.
Yeah.
Unnecessary.
All right.
Well, I love you guys.
Okay.
You better go to work.
I'm gonna go do something else.
All right.
Of some
watch this.
What's the word?
Watch this.
Substantial value.
Don't say this isn't.
I'm not gonna keep talking about grapes.
Oh, I agree.
We spent 40 minutes talking about watch this and grapes.
Yeah.
This is why people. Nobody's tuned out.
Watch this.
I'm leaving.
All right. Thank you.
Bye now.
We push the chair over here. Yeah. Well, that was fun.
Yeah. No, that's good. That's good. I was actually laughing a little too hard sometimes because I'm only 15 days away from surgery, and that's the only thing that really hurts is the laughter.
Just now or on Sunday?
Just
oh,
now.
Yeah, sorry about
just
that.
now. No, it's good. It's good.
Her cheap joke line was
hysterical.
Yeah.
Coughing hurts a little bit. Sneeze, forget about it.
Oh gosh.
But the laughing, for some reason, that's causing some pain. So,
well, that's because you're engaging those same muscles.
You are.
When we were going to our church planning network meeting last Thursday, and me, you, Chad, and Hernán were in the car, and you sneezed, because it wasn't a normal sneeze for you.
No.
But you were trying to hold it in.
I was. I don't want to sneeze. Don't sneeze. Because at that point, I was only like 8 days out of surgery.
Yeah.
And I had hernia surgery, by the way, in case you want to know. A lot of people coming up didn't know I had hernia surgery, but they were going, "What happened to your head?"
Yes.
Yeah. And I would just tell them a bar fight, and
you had a hernia in your head.
Yes,
that's what it was. Yeah.
No, I had surgery at the same time.
Yeah.
Doctor gave me a BOGO on anesthesia. I had a Groupon.
Yeah, a Groupon. Yeah.
So you gotta use it. The anesthesia Groupon.
You just had like a mass there that they removed.
I did.
Right? Like
I did. Nothing wrong. It was a fatty mass.
Yeah.
Too much information, but healing up pretty good.
Yeah, looks good.
Yeah. Afterwards, when somebody knows you have hernia surgery, they all talk about their own surgery. Mm-hmm. Oh, hernia, I heard that was painful, but I had kidney stones. I birthed 5 kids.
You know what, David? You bring up a great point, and we don't have to, because we probably should do something substantial, like Lindsay said. Sorry to make you laugh there. But you bring up a great point that we need to address probably at some time, is why do people do that?
Yeah.
When someone's telling you a story, just let them tell the story and be interested in it. Do not turn it to yourself and what your issue is.
Oh, you had hernia surgery. Well, I had adult circumcision. Talk about painful.
I was a disciple of Apostle Paul. And
I don't get that.
I don't either. Mm-hmm. But I feel like it's an epidemic.
Yeah.
It is. The moment you tell somebody something, it's like a tee up for them to take over the conversation and tell you about their life. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Mm. And I want to be like, we weren't discussing you.
No. Just relish in the fact that I'm hurting.
Yeah.
Or please.
Pray for you. Yeah.
Next podcast, I do want to talk about something because this would take another 10 minutes and then we would never get to Easter or Ephesians 4 or Ephesians 5. I do want to talk about how people downplay laparoscopic surgery. They go, oh, it's just laparoscopic these days.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like I have 6 holes in my body now.
Yeah, exactly.
As opposed to one big one.
Yes.
So yeah, I do want to talk about that. I don't think I can talk about it now because I'm a little bitter.
We can bring out some medical experts. Yeah.
Okay. Easter's coming up this weekend. 6 gatherings in Canton, 3 gatherings in Jasper, and 3 gatherings online. Canton, it's Thursday night, 2 Saturday, 3 Sunday. We are prepared. Thank you so much. If you have heard us say, please, if you come on Sunday, come to one of the other gatherings. Yeah. Come to the 8:00 gathering on Sunday morning. But give people a space to come if they normally don't come to church or they're bringing guests. They got family in town, so that's great. We're really excited about that. Excited to celebrate the resurrection. And I think the message last week was perfect going into it. And when you started out the message at the end of Ephesians chapter 4, and you said, I could probably do a sermon on each one of these verses.
Yeah.
I was like, yes, you could. And because Ephesians 4:29 is my favorite verse, and I was waiting for like an entire message on that. But the way you did it, because it is a big thought.
Yeah.
I thought that was excellent.
Yeah, and that's always the wrestle, because we've had this conversation, and even friends that come to church, and they'll say, when I make a comment like that, we'll do that, do it. But there's other considerations to come. And so, or other factors to consider.
Is my cologne overbearing? Because it's overbearing for me right now.
No.
Okay, good.
No, I'm now desensitized to it.
Okay, I tried something new today, so that'll be in another podcast.
That's a nice derail there.
Okay, yeah, sorry. Sorry, but I'm choking on my own cologne right now. Continue.
Your pheromones are...
continue.
So, yeah, I could have. Because that section is like a proverbial section, like each one's its own proverb, each one's its own truth. Which is why I even extended into Ephesians 5:2, because it gets to as God in Christ forgave you, as God in Christ loved you. So it felt like that was a great Easter setup, because the message this week for Easter, it won't be in Ephesians. Sometimes it is, like in Christmas it was a part of Ephesians 3. But this year, our Easter theme is Darkness, Your Hour is Over, which is a part of a song called Nobody that we've been singing, and we'll sing again this weekend. So sometimes we'll kind of pick a theme like that, and I really liked this year's theme because there's a lot of Easter ramifications to it. Darkness, the phrase of your hour, what does that mean? And then the fact that it's over. Why is it over? How is it over? So I felt like that theme in and of itself was great enough to be its own message, because obviously the message of Easter, like I was just off on a Zoom call earlier with pastor friends in our church planting network, and we were joking because one of the guys, their creative team said, "Hey, what are you talking about this Easter?" He's like, the death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus. Like that's what we're talking about. That's Easter. Sure. That's the message. And sometimes that fits, like in John, I just preached right in John because, we were at a point in the gospel where it made total sense to talk about it. But this one, I felt like that Easter, or that Ephesians, 4:25 through 5:2, that section as a whole, again, was a great setup. And hopefully I did justice enough to each one of those verses to try to make it make sense to the point is, again, because I think a lot of times we can read those individual commands as like, oh yeah, you know what? I need to do that better. I need to be angry and not sin. That's right. I need to build people up with my speak. That's right. And you kind of miss the collective whole of like, hey, but when you do all that grieves the Holy Spirit because it's ruining relationships.
Rotting them.
It's rotting relationships. That's the point. because the whole point of Ephesians is because of Christ, there's this new family now called the church. That's the point. So Ephesians is more about the church to where Colossians is more about Christ. And they're they're connected. And so the whole point of Colossians is this Jesus is different. He's the image of the invisible God. But the whole point of Ephesians is here's the new family and here's how the family acts, So the first 3 chapters about what God did to save us as a people, and then the last 3 about how we act as a people. So I took it from that angle, staying, kind of at a larger, higher level to say all of these commands are really about relationships, to where that's when I made the point, even though, again, I didn't use the word in its correct form, but like we either rotting relationships or we're rooting them. And one of our families at church came up to me after the 11:30 and made a point. I was like, oh yeah, I meant to say that and I forgot. This is part of the things that in a message I'll forget. But she said, even rooting relationships, I was talking about that relational roots, but she's like, it also applies to like, we're rooting people on. We're encouraging. We're cheering for them.
Oh, wow.
Like rooting.
Yes.
I said, you're exactly right. And I meant to say that.
Yes. Because that's Ephesians 4:29.
Ephesians 4:29.
Building up to encourage.
Yes.
That was the first message I ever preached here.
Is it?
Was Ephesians 4:29.
Yeah. So that is and so when she said that, I'm like, oh gosh, yeah, I forgot to say that. But that's a better application of the whole thing.
Right.
Is the point I'm trying to make. To where if we took each part individually, we'd miss that application.
That's good.
Yeah,
that's
the main
good.
application is how you live relationally with others. Are you working against? Are you rotting those relationships? Because if you are, you're grieving the Spirit. Or are you rooting those relationships? Because if you are, that's what God wants you to do, and you'll be cheering people on.
Yeah,
you'll be rooting for them.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons when somebody says, well, I don't have the gift of encouragement, and I'm like, no, you don't have a choice.
It's not a gift.
Yeah, we're not given a choice to encourage or not. It says, let no corrupting talk.
Yeah,
but only. Yeah. So whatever word comes out of your mouth, we're not given a choice.
Yeah.
God thinks every word is important. So,
and to your point, and because we've already talked about in the first part of chapter 4, we talked about spiritual gifts and how God gives each one of us gifts. And so clearly there are spiritual gifts, but I think, yes, to your point, a lot of times we say it's like evangelism. Well, I don't have the gift of evangelism. Well, there are definitely evangelists that are, as in the list of verse 11, that are a gift to the church. So clearly some people are gifted to do that, but we're all commanded to share our faith.
Right. So to use that I don't have that gift as a reason not to do something.
Yes, it's not you're missing the point.
Exactly.
You're missing the difference between spiritual gifts and spiritual fruit.
Right.
Or gifting versus maturity. Because there are clearly, and I would say you are one of these people, there are clearly people that God has uniquely wired to be encouragers. Like you're going to be an encourager in who you talk, which is why that verse is your favorite. Anybody that knows you would say that about you. However, we can't reduce it to just that and say like, I don't have the gift of encouraging, so therefore I'm not going to encourage. Well, what's the opposite of encourage? You're going to tear down then?
Yeah.
Like, well, that's not an excuse. So you may not have the gift of encouragement like others do, but you can encourage, as the verse says, as it fits the occasion. You can find an occasion to encourage somebody. And you can find an occasion to not tear somebody down or not rot a relationship. You can root them on. You can encourage them, because encourage just means to put courage in them.
Right.
So you can say things like, you know what, man, that stinks, but you can do this, or God's with you, or I love you, I'm with you. All that is building up language.
Yeah.
And so everybody should do that. If you're a parent, that's one of your chief jobs as a parent, is to encourage your kids.
And there's nothing more powerful than a word of encouragement.
Yeah.
Because we can get so down on ourselves.
Yeah.
And the enemy has a field day with that.
Yes.
and we're not listening to God's words.
Yeah.
We're listening to the enemy's words, and then somebody will just come along and say, hey, you're doing great.
Yeah, speaking of my spouse who just barged in here earlier, we had, because Lindsay it is a person, like she is in a good way, she doesn't need to have thousands of friends. She's an introvert in that way, so she recharges being alone. But she wants, she's very outgoing, but she wants a few people to have deep relationships with. And I had to learn that over the years, where she wants and needs encouragement from me. But early on in our, or not probably early, I don't know, at some point in our relationship, she would be really concerned or anxious about something that she had to do or something that came up. And I would always tell her, like, I'm not worried about that, whatever. And she always felt like I was just dismissing it. And then finally one time I told her, I'm like, Lindsay, I want you to understand something. This is why I'm saying that. The reason why I'm saying I'm not worried about it, the anxiousness that you have, is because you're such an amazing person. You're so gifted in being able to manage things in details. Like, when you tell me that you're worried about it, I dismiss it because I know you're such an amazing person. You got it handled.
Right.
So that's why I'm not worried about it. Well, then she understood why I was saying it was to encourage her.
Yes.
I wasn't dismissing her feelings about it, but I was encouraging her and saying, babe, you're incredible. And so therefore, that's like Michael Jordan saying, man, I'm really worried about, making a layup, or I'm really worried about, what? You're arguably the greatest of all time. You got this.
But this is why clear communication is so important.
Yeah.
And laying out, because you could go years, and a spouse could go years thinking they're being dismissed.
Yes.
When in fact the other spouse isn't thinking that at all.
No.
The other spouse is going, no, you're good.
Yes. Well, and that's a great example. I had to learn that, and clearly, because I thought that way, I felt that way about her, but I hadn't communicated it. I hadn't encouraged her with that. And so I'm using that as an example to say of, like, we can all find those examples of maybe you think that about a person, or you feel that way about a person, you just haven't said it.
Right.
And that's when Lindsay's like, well, Jason, if you didn't tell me, I wouldn't know. I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. So we all need to be encouragers in that way. It's not like we have to have the gift of doing that, but you can find people in your life that either your family or your church family that you're close to, or you can just, again, be a person that you put courage in some people, because you're just being honest about what you see. You know what, man, you're really good at that. And I don't know if anybody's ever told you that, but I want you to know that I saw that. Well, that's a simple thing to do. Yeah. But people will run on that energy for years.
Yes. Yes. And the opposite will have an effect for years.
Yes.
Depending upon, and I'll just use a personal example of growing up playing baseball.
Yeah.
And my dad was awesome. And when he would watch me pitch, he would tell me afterwards in the car the pitches that didn't go well.
Yeah.
And he didn't mean anything by that.
100%.
He was just pointing out, why did you throw a curveball 3-2? You don't have that kind of control.
Yes. Yeah.
So
just do a changeup right down the middle, or a fastball.
All I heard was I stink.
Yeah, what you didn't do.
Yeah, what I didn't do, and that had an effect for years.
Of course,
but it's not my dad's fault. He was not doing anything other than trying to get me to think about how to pitch.
Totally. And again, I think that's another good example, because I mentioned about that's one of parents' main jobs is to encourage their kids, because very similar. Yeah, I would play football, and my dad, who went from early in my life, didn't come to anything. Like, he was an absent dad, didn't come to any of my games. And then when I got saved and we started going to church, then he came to every practice all through my high school years. But he still wrestled with this. He wasn't good with his words. It's like, what's that? Like the caveman, or the, like, me love food. Like, my dad didn't know how to, express his emotions, But after football games, he would tell me about how all the great things my friends did. But I always felt like, so you're saying they did great, but I didn't do great, And again, because that was 13 to 18. That was my formative times. And we had a conversation about it at some point. And so I think I told my mom, and my mom said something to him because he didn't mean to demean me, but he wasn't encouraging me.
Right.
And so, yes, I think that's a practical application of this message, is to think about how we relate, again, and put away my old self, how to speak truth to people, but how to not be angry with people, how to encourage people, how to not hold on to bitterness, slander, clamor, all that we talked about, malice. And then ultimately how to treat people, how to forgive and love people the way God forgives and loves me or us. In fact, I was just listening to, again, I've mentioned him many times, one of my favorite pastors / preachers of all time who passed away recently was Tim Keller. So I still listen to his messages all the time. And he was talking about, he actually did a message called The Hour of Darkness, which, ironically just came up on my feed this week. And so I was listening to it. And his point was about, obviously what Jesus did on the cross. And we'll talk about this on Easter, because again, I think there's some pretty amazing theological points to be made. But his point was, if Jesus was willing to go that far, if Jesus was willing to bear the wrath of God for our sin, he did that. Do you think that me coming to him with my petty stuff now, he's annoyed with me? Like he's like, I've already did that. You think this is what's going to bother me now? Like I already went to this length to save and love and forgive you. And do you think even your repetition of the same sins, or your slipping up here, you think that is going to be like, I can't,
Yeah, that's good.
Which again is a great tie into Easter. Yeah, we have to, and the Bible even says this, we have to encourage ourselves with these words, and then encourage each other with, that's the truth that we're supposed to speak to one another, is, yes, you messed up, but God forgives you and loves you, because look at the cross, and let that be the defining thing of all our relationships. And that was the ultimate point I was trying to make at the end, is if I can't forgive someone, or I can't love someone, even for the most heinous, grave things, if I choose to stay bitter, then I'm saying I can't do what God did. I'm more important than God, because God didn't. And the point I made was, whatever they did to you is not as bad as what you did to him.
That's right.
Because of who he is. And that's when I tried to say at the end, we either mimic God or we mock God. There's really no middle ground. So if I'm going to mimic him, then I'm going to root relationships. I'm going to love. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to speak the truth. I'm going to build up. I'm not going to be angry in sin. God wants us to mimic him, imitate him in that. And we're either imitating him or we're mocking him. And so anybody that's in our church, and again, I've said this many times, there will be times where I offend people. Clearly I offended people with stickers on their car or whatever, that's a joke, But that's what bugs me about today's modern church culture in a lot of ways. It's like, well, that church hurt me, and so I left. Okay. It might have been legitimate hurt. And again, I'm not talking about criminal things here. But okay, well, my wife hurt me. I hurt my wife. I hurt you. You hurt me. So the solution is I'm going to leave? That's not what Christ did. The solution is, as far as it depends upon me, I'm going to work towards reconciliation. I'm going to go and try to reconcile. I'm going to forgive. I'm going to love. I'm going to speak the truth. I'm going to encourage. That's what we're called to do, And again, so being hurt by people is not a reason to ruin or run from relationships.
Now, it does bring up an interesting thing. Somebody came up to me after one of the gatherings this weekend and said, what I'm hearing is I have to forgive as Christ forgave me. Do I then have to be in relationship with that person? Is that a requirement?
No, I think, and again, it depends upon, it depends upon the circumstance. And what I mean by that is like, I would never tell somebody like if they're in a physically abusive relationship.
Yeah, if they were assaulted.
Yes.
You can forgive that person, but you do not have to be in relationship with that person.
No, it is. Those are called boundaries.
Yes. That's what I told them.
Yes, and so that's not the point. The point is not that God. Yes, as God in Christ forgave you. That is in the context of a relationship that is reconciled.
Mm-hmm.
So God in Christ, and he uses the word God in Christ reconciled, forgave, and reconciled us or redeemed us. So in order for that to happen, two people are receptive to it. Two people one is giving, one is receiving. And so, no, I would say forgiveness and love is different than actually a reconciling relationship.
Mm-hmm.
The goal should be reconciliation, but in that kind of sense, when someone, like we've told this to people all the time, like, here's you want to reconcile the relationship, but here's the requirements for reconciliation. Here's the boundaries. If they want to reconcile, then they'll come in and live inside those boundaries. If they don't, then they chose not to reconcile. You offered it. You offered forgiveness. You offered grace. If they choose not to receive it, then you don't have a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But again, as far as it depends upon you, you're offering it. They have to receive it.
Mm-hmm.
So again, in that kind of circumstance, no, forgiveness doesn't mean that I have to reconcile with somebody who's not willing to come and live in a healthy relationship.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's good.
Because that's how it works. It's not like God, to use that same analogy, God's requirement, like we're not universalist, God is not forgiving the whole world and he's just accepting everybody where they are and says, I love you, keep on sinning.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not how our relationship with God works. It's, I love you, repent and come live in relationship with me. So even God has requirements for relationship. Sure. God has boundaries. So that's the way to think about it in a healthier way, which requires repentance, which requires, in order for me to be a relationship with God, I have to say, you're right, I'm wrong. Mm-hmm. But I receive your grace,
right.
So no, that's a different, and that's a great question because we get that question often. So I hope that's helpful to people. Mm-hmm. As far as it depends upon you, forgive, but then they have to receive and reciprocate in order for you to remain in a relationship.
No, that's good. And reconciliation, restoration, that is the cross. That is what we're going to be talking about this weekend.
Yeah, that's Easter.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's the podcast today. There's a lot. There was a lot going on there.
Yeah.
Unless you had more to say about Easter.
No, I mean, again, I think when we already addressed it, like it's a great time. I think the thing about Easter, I was going to say this earlier, one of the most amazing things about Easter to me, and we will have guests. We definitely will have first-time guests. But one of the cool things about it is just the nature of, it's a good and bad thing, the nature of people's attendance. Most people don't attend every weekend. Mm-hmm. Most data will tell you people attend like 1.7 times, a month, which I know that's not statistically possible, but it's how it averages out. Mm-hmm. So let's just say people attend 2 out of every 4, So the crazy thing about Easter is really Easter is a better representation of the actual size of our church. Because we will average over 3,000 on a normal weekend, but we actually have closer to 5,000 or probably over 5,000 to 6,000 people that actually attend our church. Mm-hmm. They just don't attend every weekend.
Right.
So that's one of the cool things to me about Easter is we actually get to see somewhat of an impact of our church. And again, same with Jasper and Canton. I mean, it's the same pretty much everywhere we are, where our attendance will almost double. But it's not just doubling. It's not like 3,000 new people are coming is my point. We will have a couple hundred new people traditionally. So I say that to say as a way to, again, encourage our church, look around this weekend and see the people that are there and know those are people that our church has contact with and is in somewhat of a relationship with. Obviously, we would love it to be more, but pray for those people and use it as a unique opportunity whatever gathering you attend, to invite those people back.
Yes.
Because we will invite them back. Mm-hmm. But there's a great opportunity I think our church has to say, man, I haven't seen you. I would love for you to come. We have a Thursday night every week, or we have other opportunities. So I'm saying that to people in our church. You are actually our best resource. Oh, you are the church.
Yeah, because it's a church family. So yes. you wouldn't go sit in a movie theater and afterwards spend another half hour greeting people and inviting them back to the movies next week.
Yes.
But this is church. Yeah. This is a church family. That's the language that we use. You're in the new family of Jesus.
Yes.
And so it is a great opportunity to do that. If you have chosen to go to one of the other gatherings, Thursday or Saturday or 8:00 on Sunday, think about the seat that you would normally sit in at 9:30 or 11:30 and pray for that person. Yeah. That person may be coming to church for the very first time, or maybe once a year at best.
Yeah.
And maybe doesn't have a relationship with Jesus. So lots of opportunity here, and it's exciting. We're always, a little nervous. Is everybody going to come Thursday and Saturday and nobody's coming Sunday?
Yeah, we never know. We never know.
But that's what we did for Christmas, and Christmas was still full.
Yeah, it worked great. And again, God has been very gracious to us. And almost all my pastor friends are saying the same thing. Like coming out of COVID, it was 2 weeks ago?
Yep.
4 years ago.
4 years to flatten the curve.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. So too soon.
Yeah, we're through that. And even I saw just like last month the CDC finally, you don't have to stay in place for 5 days anymore. As long as you don't have a fever, you're fine. So it feels like we are through that. We've been through it for a while, but still some people were not for different reasons. But I say that to say again to our church, use this weekend as an opportunity to encourage people. Maybe you haven't seen them for years. Mm-hmm. Don't be like, where have you been, you loser? Like, hey man, it's so great to see you.
Yes.
We missed you.
Yes.
We would love to have you back. Come sit with us. Where have you been? Come to our group. So I mentioned that to say, like, now is a great opportunity. And you can even use the chaos in the world and be like, you need to be in church. It's crazy out there. Like encourage people.
Yes.
Coming out of this last weekend's message, this is a practical way. Yes, invite new people, and that always is great. But even the people that you see that are here that maybe you haven't seen in a while, encourage them to come back.
Excellent. Okay, for a transcript of the show, write down everything we say, unless you're watching on YouTube, where there actually is a transcript.
Don't write down anything that Lindsay and I said.
Producer is Brian Damerow. Our video technician, Neon Kian Sadiji. Key grip, Jakub Puszczykowski. Our videographer is Marco Guardiola.
I appreciate you trying since I mentioned last time.
Yes. Our head of doctrine and theology is theologian. Our chief evangelist is salvation. Our backsliding prevention officer is lukewarm. Our director of Swedish witnessing is Bjorn again. Our expert on Russian eschatology is Pitaf Hell. Our director of holiness mortification. Our staff counselor is Les Moody. Our giving coordinator is Jenna Rossity. Our director of tithing is Tim Percent. 10%. Our nativity coordinator from France, Bethlehem. Our co-pastors of plagues, Manny Locust and Lance Boyles. Our Irish eschatology professor is Marco the Beast. The director of communication, I've heard it both ways, is Bernie Bush. The director of the doctrine of election is I Am Chosen. Our sabbatical director is Trip Long. Our director of marriage studies from Romania, Shizma Betterhoff. Our missional expert is Sam Aria. Our resident Trinitarian is Holly Spirit. Our strategist for the final battle is Irma Gedden. Our doctrinal security officer is Harry C. Our resident prayer warrior is Neil Down. Our executive director of spiritual warfare is Dee Monick. And
we have a lot of people.
Our staff cardiologist.
Didn't know this.
Staff cardiologist.
How was I not told about this person?
Yeah, she isn't. Well, could have used you.
Yeah.
Could have used her. She's in charge of deceitful hearts, though. And of course, all of our hearts are deceitful. Her name is Angie O'Graham. angiogram.
I gotta go see my cardiologist this week.
And two best encouragements.
Trust God and take a nap.
Yes,
there we go.
2 best words.
Yes. See you next time.
Happy Easter.